Millions of Social Security beneficiaries just got a major break. The Social Security Administration has officially confirmed they are rolling back their controversial policy of withholding 100% of monthly benefits in the event of an overpayment. Instead, they will now limit garnishment to no more than 50%, meaning people who owe Social Security money won't lose their entire check. This change will make a massive difference for anyone dealing with repayment demands, and it's one of the most important reversals the agency has made in a long time. But here's the critical detail. This policy will not apply to everyone. One large group, roughly 7.4 million people, is specifically excluded. So the question you need to answer right now is, are you protected, or could you still lose most of your benefit? The truth is, this change impacts almost everyone receiving Social Security benefits, but not every single program under the Social Security umbrella is covered. If you're getting retirement, disability, SSDI, spousal, survivor, or any benefit except supplemental security income, SSI, this change could directly affect your monthly income. The SSI group is the exception, and we'll explain why shortly. What matters right now is this confirmation from inside the agency represents yet another reversal in what's been a chaotic series of decisions around overpayments. Just a few months ago, they were taking 100% of someone's benefits to recoup these debts. Now, they're cutting that in half. The reason for this flip-flop stems from growing public pressure and internal confusion. Back in March, SSA reinstated full 100% garnishment for people they said were overpaid. This led to widespread outrage, especially among low-income recipients who suddenly had their entire monthly income wiped out. Then, in late April, an emergency internal memo was sent to Social Security staff. That memo announced the reversal. Garnishment would now be limited to 50%, not 100%. This applies only to new overpayment letters dated April 25th or later. And yes, it's official. The agency has confirmed this multiple times now, even though most people haven't seen the memo themselves. If your overpayment letter came before April 25th, specifically between March 28th and April 24th, you may still be on the hook for the full 100%. That's a problem because it creates a two-tier system. Some people get hit with everything, others lose only half. There is no clear guidance yet on whether this earlier group will receive a correction or if they're simply stuck with the harsher rule. But the key takeaway is, as of now, any new overpayment letters dated from April 25th forward will result in no more than 50% of your check being withheld. Why is this such a huge deal? Because overpayments are shockingly common. Social Security frequently pays too much due to paperwork errors, eligibility changes, or system delays, and then tries to claw that money back months or even years later. The worst part is they often do this with little to no warning. In many cases, the notice of overpayment and the notice of garnishment show up at the same time, leaving recipients with no time to appeal or respond. People who rely on their monthly check to pay rent or buy groceries are suddenly left with nothing. And even though this 50% policy is still aggressive, it at least prevents full financial devastation for those affected. Now let's talk about the one group this doesn't apply to, SSI recipients. Supplemental Security Income is technically administered by the Social Security Administration, but it follows different rules. The garnishment for overpayments on SSI benefits has been capped at 10% for years, and that has not changed. If you receive SSI, your overpayment deduction remains at 10%, and you are not subject to the 50% garnishment. That's about 7.4 million people, and it's the one area of consistency in an otherwise erratic policy environment. Here's why this difference exists. SSI benefits fall under what's called Title 16, whereas other Social Security benefits, retirement, SSDI, and others, fall under Title 2. The emergency internal memo made it very clear. Title 16, which includes SSI, stays at 10%. So if you are an SSI recipient, you're not part of this roller coaster. But if you receive any other type of Social Security benefit, you're very likely in the group affected by the 50% policy. So what does this mean in real terms? If you were told you owe Social Security money and the notice is dated on or after April 25th, your check can be reduced by up to 50%, but no more. If you're receiving $1,200 a month, they can withhold $600. That's still painful, but it's better than losing the full amount. If your letter came between March 28th and April 24th, you may have already lost everything in a given month. Unfortunately, the agency has not confirmed any plans to revisit or correct those particular cases. That leaves thousands of people who may have experienced extreme hardship based on a policy that was reversed just weeks later. One of the reasons this issue is so confusing is that Social Security keeps changing the rules without clearly communicating those changes to the public. First, they reduced the garnishment rate to 10%, then they raised it to 100%, then they reversed that to 50%. And now there's talk in Congress of pushing it back to 10% again. That's right. Several lawmakers are now demanding that the 10% cap be reinstated across the board. They argue that even a 50% reduction is far too steep, especially for people who live entirely on fixed incomes. So, this may not be the final word on the matter. But as of today, the policy stands at 50% for Title II benefits and 10% for Title 16, SSI. Any future overpayment letters will follow that rule unless the law changes again. What's important is that you understand where you fall. If you receive Social Security retirement, SSDI, or other non-SSI benefits, and you get an overpayment notice dated April 25th or later, expect up to half your check to be withheld. If you receive SSI, you are still protected under the 10% cap. Keep in mind, not everyone is affected by this. Only people who receive overpayment letters are at risk of garnishment. If your record is clean and there's no overpayment issue, you won't see any reduction. But since overpayments are often the result of agency errors, many people are blindsided when they do happen. That's why knowing the current policy and how it's evolved is so essential. Unfortunately, this isn't just about numbers and policies. It's about real people being put through unnecessary stress and financial disruption because the agency can't stick to a consistent approach. These aren't minor bookkeeping errors, these are full-on benefit losses that push vulnerable individuals closer to eviction, missed medications, and hunger. That's why advocates and lawmakers alike continue to call for a permanent, humane fix to the overpayment recovery process. Until that happens, all you can do is stay informed, monitor your mail for any overpayment notices, and be prepared to act quickly if one arrives. If you do get a letter, you have the right to request a waiver, file an appeal, or negotiate a repayment plan. And thanks to this new policy shift, the maximum they can withhold, at least for now, is half your benefit unless you're on SSI, in which case it remains capped at 10%. This situation highlights a deeper problem within the Social Security Administration, a lack of clear communication and consistency. When policies change back and forth within just a few weeks, like going from 10% withholding to 100% and now to 50%, beneficiaries are left confused and unprepared. For many, Social Security is their only source of income. Losing even part of it, let alone the entire check, creates a ripple effect.